Today's Total Soccer Show is sponsored by Enclosed, the designer lingerie subscription service. If you would like to indulge your significant other with the gift of high-end lingerie, then Enclosed is the way to go. It's a concierge service that guarantees the quality and fit of your gift, and it comes in a delightful box. Go to enclosedlingerie.com to see what it's all about. That's ENCLOSED, like enclosed in a box, and lingerie, LINGERIE.com, and then use the code TSS. That's TSS to get $35 off any multi-month gift. Hello and welcome to the Total Soccer Show. My name is Daryl Grove and I'm joined by a man who was very disappointed not to get the US call-up when Zach Steffen had to drop out with injury. His name is Taylor Rockwell. Hello.
Hello. If I were ever actually caught up to the national team, it would be very exciting. But if I were caught up to the national team to be a goalkeeper, I think I would just be terrified. This is not going to go well. We shouldn't be doing this.
So Gregg Berhlater calls you. He's like, "Oh, great news, Taylor." Yeah. And he tells you where to be, ready for the game against Ecuador and Orlando.
Yeah.
And then he says, "By the way, buy some goalkeeper gloves."
Yeah. I then don't show up because I am fully confident that it's the Cooligans setting me up. It's clearly a prank.
It is the type of prank they would pull.
It's an ambush. It's a podcast ambush.
It was not a prank or an ambush when Gregg Berhalter called up Jesse Gonzalez of FC Dallas instead to replace the injured Zach Steffen. This is weirdly big news because we assumed Zach Steffen was the starter.
Yep,
so this means we're without our starting keeper and we're without the guy that Gregg Berhalter knows and trusts.
And yeah, because Zach Steffen has vague knee injury. This break...
It was real. Are you suggesting it wasn't real?
No, I know it's real. But this international break, given the way competitions are going around Europe, there were a few, not with the U.S. national team, but a few other ones that it was just sort of okay, I know what you're doing here. Players just ooh, yeah, my ankle hurts, I guess. I can't play for you. Sorry.
And so, knock on wood, the U.S. hasn't had any pullouts from the Trinity, Christian Pulisic, Weston McKennie, Tyler Adams.
You're anointing them the trilogy.
I didn't use the word holy. I just said Trinity.
I know.
Right?
It's still a big step.
But that is a thing that's happened in the past, right? Yeah. We've often lost one or two in the run-up to a friendly. I think it's really important that we get to see them on the field in the Gregg Berhalter system in March. So again, knock on wood. Everybody please knock on wood. Find some wood, knock on it. That none of those guys get injured before Thursday.
Yes. I think that's fair. I think you've knocked on it several times now. In fact, you may have only knocked on it twice, which means that you've undone the knocking on wood. So you might have to read. There we go. Now we're good to go.
It's great podcast audio, I hope, as well.
I'm sure it's not. We're going to be talking more about the U.S. roster, looking at some of the players, some of where we think those players might be.
We'll do a potential lineup, right?
Some of the things that Gregg Berhalter has said. We'll do our own lineup, as always, that seeks to combine what we think will happen with maybe a few things that we would like to see happen.
And not to give too much away, but part of the Gregg Berhalter era is it's kind of easier to guess the lineup now.
Yep.
I think. Because there's a system and there's a plan and he gives us clues.
Do we need to knock on wood for that or are we okay?
No, I think that is a thing that's happening. It's just a much easizer treasure hunt than the guesswork we used to have to do. But we have an opponent.
Yeah.
The opponent on Thursday is Ecuador.
Yep.
We're going to just give you a quick preview. We're not going to do the whole roster.
They are less easy to predict.
They're less easy to predict, but there's a lot of interesting players to keep an eye on. Before we get into them, here's the thing I'd like to say to you, Taylor. I think this is a perfect progression.
I agree.
Panama's B team, kind of easy. We did our possession thing. It worked. Costa Rica's B team, more or less. We did our thing. It kind of worked. Ecuador in a little bit of a rebuild as they prepare for Copa America 2019. I think is a good next step in terms of how hard the opponent is. Really?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's an Ecuador team, as you said, that's in transition, but there's still some of those familiar names there. Whether or not they should be, we'll be discussing.
Yeah.
But so it does feel like a team that missed out on the World Cup, has a new coach who's been there before.
Dario Gomez, who got Panama to the World Cup. He is now the Ecuador coach.
Do you know who was playing one of the last times Dario Gomez coached Ecuador against the United States?
I do know that the last time he coached them was early to mid 2000s, like 2002, 2004. Who was playing?
Why would I be asking this?
DeMarcus Beasley?
Gregg Berhalter.
Oh, Gregg Berhalter.
Played against him in 2001.
The clue was in the context.
It really was. It really, really was. But yeah, so he's been there before. He's back. It's a team that didn't make the World Cup. They've got Copa America coming up. So I think this is going to be them maybe having some of the familiar faces, but bringing in a few just to see if they fit or can kind of fit into the system in preparation for the summer.
I want to start with who's missing,
sure.
Who you might know from Ecuador. Jefferson Montero, who you would have seen playing for Swansea, played under Bob Bradley, all that. People were excited about Jefferson Montero. He's not on this roster, and I think he's not injured. I think he's just mysteriously absent.
Weird question for you. Why was he a minivan? Was it because he changed his name to Jeff?
Was he a minivan?
Do you remember that? We had a whole... it was like a recurring joke about Jefferson Montero. I think it's because he goes by Jeff Montero on his jersey.
Yes,
and so it went from being Jefferson to like driving a minivan.
Okay.
I
don't remember.
It's a vague one, but I remember that and had it in my notes. As why was he a minivan? Hopefully someone can remember.
I honestly don't know, but he's not around.
I think there was a point where you were calling him Jefferson Minivan, is I guess what I'm saying.
Antonio Valencia is on this roster.
But
hasn't played for Manchester United in a long time, and I'm pretty sure he's injured. So what is going on there?
He has not played since January, 8 appearances all season. Is training by himself, last I saw via social media, in Ecuador, on a beach in Ecuador. So I was dealing with a calf injury, played in the Champions League in December, I think was maybe the last time he played. Or I guess early January. But it feels like...
a long time.
Yeah, and is out of contract at the end of the summer. I think he's the first player since Manchester United started using the 1-year option that they have not exercised that 1-year option on him. So
which makes sense when you're suddenly injured a lot and you're 33, maybe it's time to move on.
Yeah, I think so. And then when it's also that like they've renewed Ashley Young, so Ashley Young's going to stay there.
All right, it's not a Man United podcast.
No, it's not.
Not Man United podcast.
It is to say that like he is still it seems like he is a serviceable player. So it makes sense for him to be included, especially since he will probably be the captain. But given his injury, given his form or lack thereof, it seems very surprising to me that they would still include him. I just assumed he would not be here. So to see him, I thought was initially a typo.
Do we think... you thought it was Enna?
Yeah.
Do we think maybe he's there just because he is the captain and everybody knows him, and maybe he's literally a locker room presence and a sideline presence, and maybe he's not fit enough to play more than a minute, but he's just there to be there because he's Antonio Valencia?
Yes, but I would also add that, I mean, in their last friendlies in November, he scored either in both games or at least one of the games. I think against Peru, he and Enner Valencia scored. So he maybe, still is a pivotal player.
So maybe just on the off chance that he's fit enough, like maybe if his calf magically heals, he gets on the field. Okay, the Valencia that will play and that most people will know about is Enner Valencia, right? So Enner Valencia has played in the Premier League for West Ham. He's currently playing for Tigres in Liga MX. Enner Valencia, centre forward. I think he'll wear number 13. He has no qualms about superstition. I think he'll be the dangerous player for Ecuador in either the 4-4-2 or 4-5-1 that Hernan Dario Gomez tends to favour.
I think that's a safe bet, given that there are 4 forward options, 0 caps and 9 caps and 0 caps, and Valencia 27 goals and 46 appearances. Yeah, I think he's probably the danger man.
So let's have a quick chat about why he's the danger man. Okay. The word that always comes to mind with me when I see Enner Valencia, it's not subtlety, but it's determination.
Okay.
And I honestly wanted to put that to the test. I went and watched some Enner Valencia highlights. See, is he as determined as I think? I'm not kidding you. The first clip I saw, he gets knocked over, loses the ball, gets back up, knocks the defender off the ball, gets the ball back for himself, goes and scores. This is for Tigres.
Yep.
So Enner Valencia, he is kind of a train, right? An unstoppable train. And even if you think you've stopped him, he's still coming for you.
Yeah. I mean, I would agree with that, but I would add that he's also a player who sometimes when you have these specific moments that stand out, it becomes what you think of. And with Enner Valencia, I remember him scoring like an amazing goal. I won't call it a worldie because I don't think I can pull that off, but an amazing goal for West Ham. I believe he also scored a very good goal against the U.S. national team. So in my mind, he is also a creator of very good goals.
Yeah.
So I would say, I say that just to say that to me, it's not just that he's going to run you down and he's going to be physical and he's going to knock you over. It's also that if you give him a little bit of space, he is more than capable of putting the ball in the net.
He's also, he's very confident in terms of pulling things off.
Yeah,
right?
I guess
so
with determination comes confidence.
Yes, he will find a way. He will absolutely find a way. So Enner Valencia, look out for him, number 13 in the middle. What we did end up looking at was maybe some of the wide players for Ecuador as well. Weirdly, I'd like to start at left back because I think this is the guy that most impressed me.
All right.
His name is Christian Ramirez. I think he'll wear number 6.
Yeah, he didn't get the call from Gregg Berhalter this time around. So oh, no, he did. Christian Ramirez is there. It'll be a Christian Ramirez versus Ramirez battle.
It will. So Christian Ramirez will play left back. He plays for, I want to say, Krasnodar. In the Krasnodar, excuse me.
Krasnodar, you got it right.
In the Russian Premier League. He's a left back who you got to look out for.
Yep.
That's what I'm going to say.
I would say that you are correct. Yeah. He's a left footer, very aggressive in the overlap, very fast in the overlap, and can hit a free kick or two. So I think he is going to be very important, especially if we'll get to the U.S. later, but if there is still that right back becoming a central midfielder, suddenly there's a lot of space out there.
There'll be a Tyler Adams conversation on this show. Yeah. But it is worth thinking before we get to that Tyler Adams conversation that, yes, Ecuador's left side may be their most dangerous side.
Yeah, I think so. Now, part of that is because Antonio Valencia would play on the right side, but again, we think maybe he's injured. Maybe he still plays, but I would say it's not a peak like Antonio Valencia, who can do every position.
One calf, Antonio Valencia, not as good as two calves, Antonio Valencia.
Instead, it will be probably Renato Ibarra from Copa America. We could talk about that in a sec, because I say all that to say that I agree with you that I think it's the left side that gives me more concern.
As well, Christian Ramirez just defensively as well. If we've got, say, either Corey Baird on the right or Jordan Morris on the right, it looks to me like Christian Ramirez is a competitor that you're going to have to go up against. And he'll not be easy to get past, not least because he's pretty fast.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you have him against Jordan Morris, I don't know who's faster there.
That's interesting,
and
right?
I think it's definitely a foot race pretty consistently. And then ahead of him, we think will either be Romario Ibarra from Minnesota United or Ayrton Preciado. I think it's Ayrton. I forget how to pronounce this properly. But,
I always go Ayrton like Ayrton Senna, the Formula One driver. But watching who did Ayrton play for? Is he in Liga MX?
Santos Laguna, yeah.
So the commentators will call him Ayrton. I'm going to go with that.
And he entered on his jersey, right?
He had his first name on his jersey, which is always a sign of a dangerous player.
Yes. He started on the left side against Oman in October, watching some footage as we did before we started recording. He is another fast player. Shock of all shocks.
Really fast, though, I'm going to say.
Yes.
Yeah, but dangerously fast.
Yeah, but can play a good ball as well. He did a lot of like splitting lines or kind of spotting opportunities that maybe I did not see coming, and then suddenly there's a man at the back post who taps it in, and he can take a corner or two as well. So he is another one that like will probably be involved in set pieces, similar to Christian Ramirez, but also can kind of make things happen from midfield, either like with the ball at his feet or by spreading some passes in and finding his teammates.
So if you're keeping track at home, it's Christian Ramirez at left back, we're pretty sure. And one of the possibilities at left wing is Ayrton, second name?
Preciado.
Thank you very much. The alternative on the left wing. So Ayrton is left-footed and fast, right? And dangerously fast. Plays in Liga MX. The alternative is Ibarra of Minnesota United. Romario Ibarra.
You got it.
Very right-footed.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, I think we saw him use his left foot a few times in the clips we saw. But not a lot of it. But what we saw from him was a lot of, like, technical moves, basically. It was a lot of
feints, a lot of shoulder work.
And I'm going to say he didn't necessarily pull them off a lot of the time, but it was a lot of setting the defender up to see what would happen. And it was usually that sort of step over as you're dribbling from maybe 5 yards outside the box to like 3 yards inside the box. It was a lot of that, and then I think was happy to cut inside or was happy to cross it either way. But I think we'll see a lot of step overs and kind of flash moves if it is Romario Ibarra.
So there's your two different challenges on the left, right? It's the raw pace of Ayrton, or it's the dribbly of Romario Ibarra.
Yeah.
On the right wing, if it's not Antonio Valencia, it will be
Renato Ibarra,
who I believe plays for Club America.
Yep.
So you're talking about a roster here where you've got players playing in the Russian Premier League, playing in Liga MX, some guys in MLS, which we'll maybe mention.
Employed by a team in England? That'd be one.
Employed by a team in England, yeah. So it's not like necessarily high level, but Liga MX is pretty respectable.
I go back to, and I feel confident in saying it again, I texted you this. I feel like Ecuador are the Wales of South America. That they have some players that you've heard of who are big
Wales
names.
with an A, not an H, right?
Yes, yes. They're the Welsh national team of South America. I'm not saying that Antonio Valencia is on the same level as Gareth Bale, but you have that like one big player who's obviously the main focus, but then a couple other ones who like you've got Aaron Ramsey versus say maybe Jefferson Montero for Ecuador in the past, or maybe Ander Valencia.
Yeah.
But then you've got a lot of people who kind of like for Wales, I feel like there's a ton of championship people who are good for Wales, but you wouldn't think of as being that elite level.
Yeah.
And I equate Liga MX and MLS to some extent with that same level when it comes to the Western Hemisphere. So it just feels like that's a comparable team, and then they don't always qualify for tournaments. So I think it fits that way too.
Wales, Burn?
I mean, a little bit.
Oh.
I mean, qualify for more stuff, Wales.
So let's talk about Romario Ibarra for a second. What should we expect from him if he plays instead of Antonio Valencia?
For me to get confused about which Ibarra is which,
yes.
which is I would say a like strange, not necessarily hallmark, but it is a thing to keep in mind with this roster is that like there are two different Preciados for Ecuador. There are two different Ibarras. There's
the other Preciado was. It didn't look that impressive.
He did not. He would be a right back option, but we don't think he'll start.
He looks a little clumsy.
So I think I would expect me to get confused by that. But in terms of what we should expect from Renato Ibarra, of the wide players, he looks like the one.
Wait, Romario Ibarra. No, Romario Ibarra is in Minnesota.
See, there we go.
I've done it already.
There you have.
I'm so sorry.
But yeah, Renato Ibarra, I would say, is the more likely to look for the cross, I think, of the wide players we saw. Romario Ibarra and Ayrton Preciado both happy to dribble at defenses and kind of get inside the 18 and then see what happens. And I feel like Renato Ibarra was happier to kind of play those balls from deep, still capable of getting into the box, still capable of shooting from distance. But I think if you're looking for crosses in, it will come from him.
Okay, I think that's probably enough on Ecuador, right? We've given people a few players to look out for and essentially who to be scared of.
One thing I would add, if you're because we've talked about who to be scared of, one opportunity I would say for the United States is I went back and looked at like players who have been playing for Ecuador, and in terms of their center back options, it's pretty thin. Gabriel Achillier, yes, they're all very skinny, they're all very slight. No, there's one gentleman, Gabriel Achillier, it's Achillier, which sounds French to me. I don't know what's happening there. He has 38 appearances, but everybody else combined, I think, has 3. So, and that's of 4 players. So you've got a lot of inexperience in that center back line, and I think that is them trying to figure out a little bit of depth towards Copa America, maybe a starter in Copa America. But if you've got a back line that hasn't necessarily played together, especially those 2 center backs, there could be opportunities there for a U.S. attack that's going to be a little bit mobile, we think.
All right. So all of this says to me that we have a U.S. team playing at home against Ecuador that actually has a chance to have a lot of the ball.
Yep.
But needs to be concerned about essentially very fast counterattacks.
Yeah.
Because we've talked a lot about fast, dribbly wingers of various forms and a dangerous striker who will never give up. Right? So I think the US will have the ball, but also there's always a threat lurking from Ecuador. This, to me, sets up quite an interesting game, especially in terms of a friendly and it being Gregg Berhalter's 3rd game.
Yeah. Because I think there's certainly stuff on the line for the U.S. national team and Gregg Berhalter, and equally so for Ecuador. These players all want to cement a spot on this Copa America. And I think for Hernando Gomez, who has been there since we think like just after the World Cup, he took Panama, obviously, then he takes over, but he's still figuring stuff out himself. He's still figuring out the system. He's played a variety of different styles and formations and approaches. So I think there's still a lot to play for Ecuador too. So I'm with you. I think it's going to be really exciting. I also think you're absolutely right that it's going to be Ecuador sitting off a little bit, looking to hit on the break, looking to hit the United States in vulnerable positions. The United States probably having more of the ball and trying to figure out what to do with it.
And of course, we're going to talk in detail about what the US is going to be trying to do with the ball in the second part of today's show. But first, today's show is sponsored by our friends at Dollar Shave Club.
It sure is, Daryl. I've got the copy in front of me. It has questions. I presume I'm supposed to ask them to you.
Uh-oh.
Daryl, did you shower today?
Yes, every morning. I shower every morning.
Me too. My wife thinks it's weird. I don't care.
Really?
Do you?
Why would she complain about that?
Because she's one of the ones like your body oils and hair, and you're not supposed to like
natural.
Wash that. Yeah, or I think like maybe you're not supposed to use shampoo and conditioner every day. I don't know. There's a whole thing.
Oh, she's wrong.
Okay, there we go. I'm glad we can
tell her. You can tell her. I'll have this out with her.
That's it. I think the last couple times that I've brought up my wife on the show, it's turned out she was right and I was wrong. So I don't know about that one.
So I like to shower every morning just to freshen up, feel awake, be ready to go. So yes is the answer.
I shower before games, which has always been a source of like whenever people know that, they're like, what? What's wrong with you?
Why? Be sharp, right?
Yeah.
Get sharp.
Our old friend Sean, I remember picking him up once and I was like wet going to a game. He was like, what's wrong? I was like, I just got out of the shower. He's like, what? Who would do that? Like a person who wants to be sharp, my friend.
So I'll pass the first question.
The second question, did you brush your teeth? I'm just going to assume that's a yes, because if not, get out of here.
Every morning, every night.
Did you style your hair?
I didn't style my hair.
Oh, well, so you're 2 for 3, but that's okay. But I'm asking because, as you said earlier,
you didn't ask if I wash my face. That was what I've seen this copy elsewhere. Also, did you wash your face? The answer is yes to that.
I feel like if you've taken a shower, you've washed your face.
Okay.
That's my thinking on the subject. But either way, Dollar Shave Club has you covered for all of the things that Daryl did to get ready. There is a product available at Dollar Shave Club.
There certainly is.
And I want to start with the toothbrush because I've talked about the toothbrush several times on the show, but I think it was when you were not here. So I ended up just sounding like a crazy person who talks about the benefits of this toothbrush. I'm wondering if you've had similar experiences. Do you enjoy the Dollar Shave Club toothbrush?
I do. I feel like you got slightly mocked for being so happy about the Dollar Shave Club.
It was because
toothbrush.
I said it fits really well in your mouth.
That's
and
it.
It was a question of like, are there toothbrushes that don't?
Was it Alexi Lallis that was, not impressed with that?
It was.
I want to say I was me and maybe everybody else who's in the Dollar Shave Club are the only people who understood what you were talking about.
Thank you.
I was 100%.
What was I talking about though?
There's like a weird deep bend.
See, you're already starting with weird. Similar conundrum.
There's a unique deep bend to the Dollar Shave Club toothbrush that really feels like you can just get back there. I forgot what the teeth at the back are called. Molars. Maybe because you got to make sure you get back and get right back in there and scrub them right. And the Dollar Shave Club toothbrush really makes you able to do that. It's also I am very particular about the softness and firmness of bristles, this toothbrush is right in the middle. It's the perfect size and the perfect firmness of bristle for me.
They also have the Super Bar.
I'm not making any of this up, by the way. This is really how I feel about the Dollar Shave Club toothbrush.
The reason why I'm chuckling is because they have the Super Bar toothpaste, and pretty much everything you just said about the toothbrush applies to the toothpaste, especially from my wife's perspective. She has kind of claimed the Dollar Shave Club toothpaste because she says it's the perfect amount of peppermint and sweet. So it's not like super strong minty up front, but it's not super sweet, so you don't feel like you're just like brushing your teeth with sugar. But it doesn't have the starchiness of some toothpaste where it feels like you're just brushing your teeth with grit and sand. She said it's really smooth, but it's got a nice blend of peppermint and sweetness. It's a perfect way to start the day, says she.
So she is sort of, she snuck her way into the Dollar Shave Club.
Yes, basically. Yeah? That is true, yes.
She's an unofficial member.
Stole her way into the Dollar Shave Club, yes.
If you don't want to steal your way in, you can still get a discount. Right now, you can get a Dollar Shave Club starter set for just $5 each. So the way this works, there are 3 different starter sets. There's the shower set, the toothpaste and toothbrush set, and the famous shave butter and razor set. I've got to say, when we say Dollar Shave Club, everybody thinks razors, obviously, because it's in the name, right? But the one that we've been talking about mostly today is the toothpaste. I think that's testament to sort of the wide array of products and the 3 different starter sets.
Do you think their name is Dollar Razor Club?
I mean, it's Dollar Shave Club.
Okay.
Shaving isn't brushing your teeth, right?
That's true.
If that's how you brush your teeth, you only get to do it so many times.
Yeah, that's true.
So any of those starter sets that I just mentioned are only $5, and it's the best way to try out the amazing products at Dollar Shave Club. So after your starter set, products will ship at the regular price, but you'll get yours today at dollarshaveclub.com/TSS.
That's dollarshaveclub.com/TSS. Thank you very much to Dollar Shave Club for sponsoring today's episode. And listeners, as Daryl said, you could do the shower set, the toothpaste and toothbrush set, the famous shave butter and razor set. You could do a full Cosmo Kramer and just use all of them while in the shower. Spend like a good 30 minutes in the shower, but get the entire day's preparation taken care of.
But make sure you've got good water pressure
before
you do so.
And make a cabbage rose? I forget what lettuce rose? I forget what he makes in the shower. But either way, don't do that.
So the link will be in the show notes. It's dollarshaveclub.com/TSS, and get yourself a starter set for just $5 today.
All right.
Back to the USA.
But first to say thank you to Dollar Shave Club for sponsoring today's episode. Now, back to the USA. Where would you like to start, Mr. Grove?
Oh, there's so much to talk about.
Is.
I think I want to talk about Gregg Berhalter first.
Okay.
So it's his 3rd game in charge, 2 games so far, 2 wins, 2 impressive performances, and yet not everybody seems pumped about this game.
That would be an understatement, in my opinion. Yeah.
I mean, maybe this is just Twitter. I think there's definitely a thing of like, Twitter can be angry, and the loudest people tend to be on Twitter giving their opinions about rosters and stuff. But I feel like there's already been a weird negative reaction to Gregg Berhalter's selections going into this game, whereas I feel the complete opposite. I'm sort of fully excited to see this team play.
I would say you usually get even more of a negative response once people who are sort of, I'll watch the game, but I'm not following all the news about the team.
Yeah.
Tune in. That's when you tend to see a lot of like, who are these guys? Why? Like, especially in the January camp, that's when you get your, why are there any European guys here? Why aren't we calling any European-based players?
Right, and that's honestly that's based on ignorance, right? If you don't know why the European guys were there in January, then it's kind of your fault.
Yeah, but I make that distinction just to say that like, so we haven't like necessarily heard from that like delegation yet, so that it is already so negative definitely struck me as a surprise.
They call themselves the Jeffersons.
Yes, they do.
They're going to abolish daylight savings.
Saving time.
Excuse
Thank you, Daryl. Thank you. Did you learn nothing from Kent? Anyway, these are deep Veep references. But I just wanted to go back to like, I was kind of surprised by the level of vitriol, I guess, or just the sort of frustration that seems already there for some fans of the team, especially given that this is Gregg Berhalter's 3rd game in charge.
Yeah. So I'd like to set up the optimistic version, where the reasons I'm excited for this game are we're going to see Gregg Berhalter's system.
Yeah.
We already got a preview in January, and now we're going to see it with the added bonus of Christian Pulisic, Weston McKennie, and Tyler Adams. And on top of that, Gregg Berhalter has taken the time via one teleconference and one press conference down in Orlando that now the news is coming out about that. It happened yesterday, where Berhalter's been quite specific about how he wants to use certain players. So we kind of know what the system's going to be, sort of. And we know where the players are going to be, so we can get pumped for this game.
Yeah. I mean, we can. Why do you think people aren't? Or do you want to go away from those people? Or do you want to talk more about reasons for optimism?
I think the reason people aren't is they want to see Tim Weah and Josh Sargent. Yeah. We've already talked about why those guys are not on the roster. The U23 roster was named today, and they're on it, right? They're going to be representing the US in this window. The bigger reason is that this is all about learning the system, learning the style of play, and for that you have to have holdovers from January, and you can only add in a certain number of players, right? And the players they added in in are the guys that are really doing it in Europe, like big time, which again is Tyler Adams, Weston McKennie, Christian Pulisic. Mm-hmm. So I'm excited for that.
I mean, there are other names in there that have been added. I think, and
Andre Yedlin, maybe. Yeah,
but I go back to I think just some of the names have a stigma around them, and then some of the names that were there in January also have a little bit of a stigma, rightly or wrongly. And so I think you add those into it, and if you're already maybe frustrated with U.S. soccer, or if you were never a big fan of the Berhalter appointment in the first place, maybe some of this you're at a more negative point to start, or you're already at a more frustrated point. So then it kind of makes sense that you then go down that road.
It's been a rough couple of years, right? Ever since October 2017, and then the long wait to appoint someone. I understand why people are sort of ready to be angry, but I honestly think this is a time to be positive, a time to support the team, and a time to enjoy having a US men's national team head coach who has a plan and a style, and the style is to possess the ball. It's for the US to possess the ball and disorganize the opposition and create space and opportunities for exciting players like Pulisic to break into.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I think blending like what we want to talk about with what I think a lot of people have been talking about is that there's stuff that, yes, it's true. Like we had this question a few times. Yes, it's true. If Jurgen Klinsmann did some of the stuff we think Gregg Berhalter is going to do, I would be more frustrated right now than I am right now because, number one, it's Klinsmann, that would be at the end of his tenure, who's already been there for a long time and has had many opportunities, but it's also Klinsmann who, because he's been there for a very long time, we know he's probably not going to drill them very much. This isn't going to be explained that well. This kid's being called in to see what he can do, but is there going to be that level of instruction? And I contrast that with what we saw from Berhalter in January. What we've seen so far is openness, an emphasis on communication, and an emphasis on like being tactically prepared. And so I have those two games from January as my sample size for Gregg Berhalter's tenure with the U.S. national team right now. Thus far, it has been a prepared team where the players seem to know what is being asked of them, even if they're being asked to do different things, as Nick Lima was in those two games.
Yeah.
It seems like they're able it seems like they're able to rise to the occasion because it feels like a plan is there. So there's going to be some players played out of position potentially, or some players that maybe you and I don't necessarily like or other people don't like. But I think, again, we go back to as long as it is a natural evolution, if you're working towards establishing, here's the system, here are the 23 best players to fit that system, that sets us up really well for World Cup qualifying and potentially the World Cup.
Well,
I don't know what else you could ask for.
Sets us up for the Gold Cup in the summer.
Yeah, true.
Right?
Absolutely.
Maybe the thing we're both saying is it's about system first.
Yeah.
So maybe one of the lessons is to start tuning in to watch the US national team, to watch the system in action.
Yeah.
Watch the players fit into the system rather than just like, okay, we're throwing this guy out there to see if he can do it in a 4-4-2.
Yeah.
Which is what we had for a little bit with certain coaches.
Yes, we did.
Yeah, including Bruce Arena towards the end. Yeah.
Very true. Very true.
Okay. So do you want to get to sort of picking our 11 and then having some conversations off from there, or do you want to get into some of Gregg Berhalter's comments to the media recently?
I guess both makes the most sense to me because I think one informs the other and the other informs the one. So let's start with maybe do you want to go goalkeeper first, or should we skip goalkeeper for now because it's a little bit more uncertain?
Let's go back to front. Okay. One thing, back to front meaning goalkeeper to start. One thing that's worth noting, I think, at the top is as we're learning more about the US national team under Gregg Berhalter, the formation is kind of confusing, right? Because you're going to see it on the screen as a 4-3-3.
Yeah.
Meaning when they put the graphic up at the start of the game, it's going to look like a 4-3-3, right? When the US has the ball, the right back is going to shift up and join the deepest defensive midfielder. The wingers are going to go very wide and the two attacking midfielders are going to go forward, and it's going to be essentially a 3-2-4-1, right? When the US doesn't have the ball and they're pushed deep and they're defending quite deep, it's going to look like a 4-4-2, right? They're going to fall into a sort of lowish 4-4-2 block. So even that to begin with, I think it's good for us to get that information out there because this is stuff people might not know if they haven't paid the level of attention that us and others have paid to the Gregg Berhalter era so far. So it's one formation on the screen, two different formations when you're playing. And weirdly, the formation on the screen is almost like the people at ESPN just trying to split the difference.
Yeah, pretty much. You can't really do both in like the here's the defensive, here's the attacking approach.
You could, right? You should. That may be one of the things we get in the future as a moving formation.
Yeah, but then
we can see what's happening.
You wouldn't get animated players with their arms crossed over their chest.
Yeah.
Which thing do you need more, Daryl?
I would actually. Maybe we can combine those, and you could have the players running to their different positions.
I want them to just point at the different areas of the field that they're going to be in. They're like weird clock situations.
So it'll be Tyler Adams or Nick Lima at right back, and he'll point to centre midfield, and you'll just see him sprint there as they change shape.
Well, yeah, this is going to be great.
ESPN, call me.
This is such a bad idea. All right, but yes, I would agree with you that is what they're going to do for at least one game. One of the reasons, we're jumping past goalkeeper for a moment, one of the reasons I would agree with you is because, again, going back to what we've talked about with Berhalter and some of the things he said and his emphasis on communication, he has said Tyler Adams is going to be a right back who plays as a central midfielder.
That is the big news,
more
right?
or less said
Yes.
that exactly.
So do you want to get into that first, just because it's it seems like the big news?
I suppose.
Yeah, okay.
Eventually we'll talk about goalkeepers.
So the quote was longer than has been reported, right? Because people asked some follow-up questions as well. I've actually got the whole thing for you if you're ready.
It was two different questions because the first question was basically him talking about how he's been impressed with Tyler Adams' growth at RB Leipzig, and then someone, I'm not sure who it was, might have been Paul Tenorio, asked more specifically where is he going to play in your system, and that's where this answer came from.
So here's the quote: Tyler, we want to use him as a right back that comes inside.
Yep.
And stays wide.
Yep.
We think there's advantages to be gained in wide areas on the field, and we think he can do it. We see him pulling away in centre midfield for Red Bull. He kept calling them Red Bull, which is not technically accurate, but I'm sure the people at Leipzig will love it. And getting the ball and being able to
They
penetrate.
know what they are, and we know what they are.
Yeah. Penetrate on the ball. So we're going to take a look at him in that position in that camp.
Yep.
So that means he's going to be in a right back in the 4-4-2. When we go forward, when the ball goes roughly over the halfway line, he's going to go and he's going to go and run around next to Michael Bradley in centre midfield and beyond.
Yes.
And then, this is the interesting part to me, it means he's also then going to sometimes go and pull wide and overload on the right flank as well. So you're almost going to see a weird zigzag from Tyler Adams. And the quote, the phrase that came to my mind, remember Adam Whittaker-Snavely was in here with us and he said Tyler Adams is like a chainsaw? And I really picture Adams chainsawing in from one side into the middle and then back outside.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, that could work. Hopefully a little bit more smooth and calm on the ball than a chainsaw would project. The two things here that I thought were really interesting. I don't mean for this to sound as Gregg Berhalter cheerleadery as it's about to, and I don't really have any particular love one way or the other for Berhalter. But he talked, as I said initially, about how he's been impressed with Tyler Adams' growth when it comes to RB Leipzig, or Red Bull, as you said, and that he's added an element of his game in terms of breaking the lines.
Yes.
Then he answered the question about,
Which I think is true, by the way. I've seen the same thing.
I would agree with that, too, and I want to talk about that in a minute.
Okay.
But then he talks about, right back who's playing centrally. He answers that question. I think he then got a question about, but doesn't that potentially take away from what he's developed if he's not playing in that similar position? Might that limit what he's doing? And Berhalter basically said...
The specific question was do you think it limits his ability to break up play and start counterattacks? Yeah. Do you think it limits his strengths? Yeah.
And his response was, I think he said, good question, maybe. But it's the early stages and we're trying to figure these things out. Yeah. And to me, that's as honest of an answer as you can get. And that's kind of all I need to know. He's going to try this. If it doesn't work, it's not going to be a, square shape into round hole of just trying to make this happen no matter what. He wants to see if Adams can do it. If he can't, then Nick Lima will do it. And if Nick Lima keeps doing it at the level that's great, then okay, we're fine. And if not, then maybe somebody else can do it. But to me, it's right now early stages
maybe eventually
experimentation.
No one does it.
Yeah.
Right? This isn't he's sentenced Tyler Adams to 50 hard years at right back, right?
Yeah.
I mean, one, he's sentenced him to right back and centre midfield. And two, it's an experiment.
Yeah.
It's an experiment. And the only way you get the results of an experiment is to do the experiment. You don't get the results on Twitter. It's not a Twitter poll. You actually have to put him out there and see what happens.
And I also think...
Sorry, Twitter. I feel like I'm mad at Twitter.
It's okay. You can be mad at Twitter. But
it's Jack's fault.
I also think if you listen to him talking about how Adams has gotten so much better at breaking the lines, I still think that this position allows him to do that because now he can step into the midfield and not necessarily be a deep lying playmaker, but he is not charging around trying to put pressure on people as an attacking midfielder or something like that. He is able to come centrally, get that ball. Maybe he spreads that ball through the middle. Maybe he finds Jordan Morris running on. He can try to break those lines and find attacking players in good space, and it kind of plays into that strength, but puts him in a position where we talked about this on the last show when we did the roster breakdown. If you're going to have a designated defensive midfielder, I don't think I want that to be Tyler Adams. Yeah. And so then it's either who does he start over, Weston McKennie or Christian Pulisic? And
it also frees him up a little bit, right? Because, so Berhalter says, if we can be controlling the game, then Tyler Adams, is going to be up there in the two while we're attacking, and he's in a position to win the ball back right away, right? So it's not like when the US goes forward, Tyler Adams sits at right back. No, when the US goes forward, Michael Bradley or Will Trapp in the 6 stays deep and central. Tyler Adams then has license to kind of roam around and get involved wherever he wants. In many ways, this frees up Tyler Adams, especially when we go forward and have the ball, to do more of what he wants to do, right?
Yeah.
And then the other important thing I really want to talk about is the thing with the right back coming into centre midfield and joining Michael Bradley, I think is key to this whole system because it allows the two attacking midfielders, the two 10s, Pulisic and McKennie, to get forward knowing that there's someone behind them. And that allows the wingers to go wider. So in many ways, what Gregg Berhlater is doing here, he's made Tyler Adams in this weird hybrid position the key to the entire system. What could be more important than making this player that we're all excited about key to the entire system? And that's the thing I'm thrilled about.
But that's also a thing that I think is really important to drive home, because one of the natural responses to Tyler Adams playing this right back role, or like right wing back or whatever you want to call it, is that then people say, well, that's what Weston McKennie does for Schalke. He plays as a right back, he plays as a right wing back. Why not have him do that and have Tyler Adams play more central where he's more familiar? And my answer to that is exactly what you said, is that makes sense if it's just right wing back and then central midfielder, but that's not what the job is. And it's a very specified job that I would see it the other way around, in that this is Gregg Berhalter looking and saying, Tyler Adams is the one who can do this job, and that's the most important job on this team, so I want him doing the most important job. That, to me, speaks volumes about the way Berhalter sees Tyler Adams, as opposed to he's just shoving him into right back because that's where he can play somebody. All
right. I feel like we've covered this Tyler Adams thing.
Sure.
Yeah. The flip side of the Tyler Adams thing is people asked about DeAndre Yedlin.
Yep.
Right? And that's where it got really interesting to me.
It did.
Do you mind if I just read the quote about?
Go ahead.
Because the thing we talked about in the past on this show, in January, we kind of started thinking about it, is if the right back is asked to come into central midfield, possess the ball, it does not suit DeAndre Yedlin. And then the weird thing is Yedlin is sort of playing in the Premier League, one of the senior, most recognisable US national team players. It's kind of a weird fit, right? When asked about this, Berhalter said, we're not going to ask DeAndre to do things he's not comfortable with. We'll adapt to him to a certain extent. So basically, he's not going to be asked to do the Nick Lima, Tyler Adams role. I think that's the correct call. There's almost no point trying it, right? Gregg Berhalter says, what I see from him is a tremendous ability to build momentum from behind with his speed, to take advantage of underlap or innerlap situations, which I think is the same thing.
This is where I think I said to you before we started recording that Gregg Berhalter is a cop. Like, he does cop speak, where 3 words would work.
I didn't know you'd say that on air. It's brilliant.
Oh, I mean, it's true, though. Where 3 words would work, he uses 14. What does that mean? He's able to build momentum from behind, whether it's via underlap or overlap?
So it means, so for Newcastle...
Does that just mean he is fast out of the back?
Yes, but it means joining the attack late.
Okay.
To me, it means he's playing as right wing back for Newcastle. They start out in a back 5. Newcastle get the ball forward, and then he joins the attack late, right? So building momentum from deep. And that's why and that's key to the thinking here, is a lot of people have reported this quote as Berhalter saying Yedlin will play on the wing. I don't think that's true, because when you play on the wing, you don't build momentum from deep. When you play on the wing in the system, you do what Corey Baird did, right? Which is go and stand high and right.
Okay. I think I'm showing that I got a C+ in physics here, because I'm still... The momentum thing still throws me, because to me it's like you build momentum up into the attack, as opposed to that happens and then you arrive late. That to me feels like you're arriving late to the momentum building.
No, you're building momentum as you get there. And then by the time you join the attack, you're running at full pace.
So you're talking individual momentum versus team momentum?
Yes.
There we go.
Yes.
Okay, that makes a difference.
Pace momentum.
That genuinely makes a difference, as weird as it sounds.
Can I carry on with the quote?
But you can, because that's the more important part of this.
So build momentum from behind with his speed to take advantage of underlap or innerlap situations. I'm assuming innerlap is just a synonym for underlap, right? The opposite of going outside is maybe you come inside. He has a good cross, which I think is kind of true from some of the stuff assists we've seen from him in the Premier League recently. And he's primarily used in wide positions, and we can say that he'll primarily be used in wide positions here as well.
You know what that doesn't mean?
What's that?
He's definitely going to be a winger. And that's it seems how it's been reported a little bit. And maybe he will end up being like a right wing substitution. Maybe he starts there in the first game. But I think it was he is used wide, and that's where we plan to use him, is more revealing. That might mean that he starts as a right back, and it's a more conventional right back spot.
That's what I think.
Or I think there's maybe a chance, I haven't seen this talked about much, but I think there's also a chance that if you're talking about the way he's been utilized at Newcastle, maybe it's as a right wing back in a 3-4-3, and we see a formation change in the second game.
Yeah.
Maybe he does get 15 minutes in this first game as a late game substitution, and he comes on as an attacking winger to sort of go at Ecuador with that pace and that crossing ability.
Yeah, that's true.
All of those things make sense to me, but it doesn't necessarily mean now that Tyler Adams is our right back and DeAndre Yedlin is our right winger.
Yes, I think I couldn't have said it better myself.
All right, cool.
And I do think Berhalter did mention a couple of times that the philosophy and the style is going to stay the same, but he's not guaranteeing that we'll see the exact same shape in the Ecuador and Chile friendlies as we saw against Panama and Costa Rica. And that's why I think your shout for maybe a back 3 or a 3-4-3 or something like that, it wouldn't surprise me to see that either in one game or the other, or maybe at half time, or maybe for the last half an hour of something, and that might be where Yedlin comes into play.
Yeah. I mean, having 5 center backs on the roster also maybe slightly more revealing when you look at it from that perspective as well.
Okay, so do you want to do the lineups now?
Sure.
Yeah, okay.
We still haven't done goalkeeper.
We still haven't done goalkeeper. Okay, so Stefan's out.
Yep.
Sean Johnson came on for Stefan during one of the friendlies. I can't remember which one.
The second one, whichever one that was.
I think Sean Johnson
Costa Rica,
starts.
I think.
I think Sean Johnson starts this game.
I'm going to go Ethan Horvath.
Okay.
For no other reason than because he wasn't included in the January camp, and maybe Gregg Berhalter wants to see what he can do in a game. And also just because I know it's like a year away, or not quite a year away, but it's also the case that we would expect Ethan Horvath to stay in Europe. And so if you do another January camp, that's another opportunity to see Sean Johnson where you won't get to see Ethan
You're going to make him wait 9 months?
No, but I mean, he's in the camp. And I think maybe they split shifts. Maybe they wouldn't have if Zach Steffen were healthy, but that he is not. Maybe we see Horvath start one, Sean Johnson start the other, or vice versa.
Yeah.
And Jesse Gonzalez is there to see if he can play with his feet.
Yes. So here's actually one key thing. I think Sean Johnson's much better with his feet than Ethan Horvath.
Okay.
That's why I think Sean Johnson gets the nod. Plus the familiarity from the last camp and the fact he's already been on the field.
When Ethan Horvath scores a free kick from 90 yards out, you're going to rue the day, my friend.
Is it deliberate?
Yeah, of course it is.
All right.
Ethan Horvath doesn't score non-deliberate free kicks. Get out of here.
Or any so far.
Also that.
So there's no point us arguing this out, right? But those are two different opinions.
Flip a coin.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Okay. So I'm saying Johnson, you're saying Horvath. Let's call it a 4-3-3 because that's how it'll appear on the screen. We've already explained how it shifts and changes, right? Right back's going to be Tyler Adams to start, isn't it? Yes?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, so right back's going to be Tyler Adams to start. Nick Lima will just have to look on and hope for an injury. I don't know.
I think
he did so well. He did so well in.
See, I would say it's that. He did so well that I had to hit my mic for a moment. It's that he set the bar, and now if Tyler Adams comes in and does better, then that's the order. If DeAndre Yedlin maybe gets a chance and he does better, then again that's the order. But Nick Lima has kind of established that position that now if Tyler Adams does struggle or DeAndre Yedlin or whomever else gets that spot, Nick Lima is sort of in there with the conversation. Yeah.
So one thing I'd like to say is if you're still not convinced of this Tyler Adams experiment being worth it and that he'll actually get to be heavily involved going forward, go back and watch the Panama and Costa Rica games. Look how involved Nick Lima is. He is all over the place and he's getting forward all the time. That position gives you all kinds of freedom.
To clarify, I'm not convinced that it will necessarily work, but I am okay with seeing it because, again, it is we did this in the January camp. It worked with this player. Now I want to see if this player, who I think brings an even stronger skill set to the table, can do it as well. But if not, again, it goes back to the persisting in a square peg round hole. If he keeps playing Tyler Adams when Tyler Adams can't do it as well as, say, Nick Lima did, I would be surprised if that's the case. But I'm not going to say, yes, this is perfect, but I'm not going to say this is terrible. I'm saying this makes sense to me right now,
Fair.
And I hope it does after these two friendlies have happened.
Okay, so far we've got an unnamed goalkeeper.
Yep.
We've got Tyler Adams at right back. Who are our centre-backs, Taylor?
This is where I think it's really easy to overthink because I go into the it could be Aaron Long because he captained and maybe you want some experience. Omar Gonzalez must have been brought in for a reason. It's going to be Miazga and Brooks.
I hope it's Miazga and Brooks.
I would say so.
Miazga and Brooks can both hit passes that break the lines, which is really key in the Gregg Berhalter system, right? We want them to be finding the feet of Pulisic and McKennie or even just Michael Bradley if he's more advanced. If it's anyone else, I don't know. I think Aaron Long is the possibility that he could just outperform those two in camp, in practice. They've only got 3 or 4 days to figure this out. But there's a chance if Aaron Long outperforms, that he knocks out one of those two out of the starting spots. Yep. But just based on experience and profile and talent, you would guess Miazga and Brooks are the starting pair here.
I would guess that, yes.
Okay. At left back, I would be going Tim Ream.
Okay.
Yeah. Because there's that Daniel Lovitz role that, again, in this system, the left back is a left back when defending. When we go forward, the left back comes inside and is essentially a left centre back, right? You don't do any overlapping. I think that's a good fit for Tim Ream.
That's really interesting because I was just 100% going to say it's Daniel Lovitz because that's what happened in January, and there's no necessarily natural left back.
Yeah,
I feel like Tim Ream was a sort of can play left back if we need him to,
but left-footed.
But thinking about it from that perspective, with the idea of if you're going to do that same formation, which we expect with Tyler Adams going central and Tim Ream going more central as a result, that then makes a lot more sense. So, okay, you swayed me on it. I'll say Tim Ream as the left back as well.
So I think it's Tim Ream. It could also be Daniel Lovitz. It could also be Aaron Long.
Right.
This could be where they squeeze Aaron Long in.
We're not guaranteeing anything. I think we're both now worried about that. Like you said, he was going to start and he didn't even start.
Well,
There's no point in that.
We have so many clues, and I think we're so close to knowing this 11 that I really want to get it right. You know what I'm saying? So I'm almost covering all the bases.
Yeah. Worrying about what others are going to do is maddening and impossible.
So here's the thing to look out for. If it is Aaron Long, then look out for what does it look like when the left back / left centre back is A, very talented, but B, is right footed.
Yeah.
Does it hurt us because he's not hitting passes to the left, or is it not a problem? I think I feel strongly that left-siders should be left-footed. A lot of people don't feel that way, and I'm happy to be convinced otherwise. But I think that's a good experiment to watch for and see how it goes.
Foot racist. Left-siders only.
That's
how you are?
Footist, right?
Yeah, sure. That's fine.
Okay.
I wasn't sure that would make as much sense right away.
So in the number 6 role, is it Michael Bradley or is it Will Trapp?
I would assume it's Michael Bradley.
Here's an interesting wrinkle for you. What if it's Michael Bradley's the better player, so they hold him out and play him against Chile, and it's Will Trapp against Ecuador because it's the easier game?
I mean, I don't think that's what it's not about winning a game necessarily. These friendlies, it's about playing stronger opposition. And again, to your point earlier, Ecuador is a logical progression from Panama and from Costa Rica. I would say Chile is the next step up from Ecuador, or maybe it's an even bigger step up. But so I think that all makes sense, and so you're pushing yourself and challenging yourself. But I don't think you should be looking at it as long as we win, then we're in good shape. So I think it should be, if you're going to go with the experimental shape that maybe is his priority or the number one game plan right now, you probably want your number one team that you could possibly have in place.
Okay, and all respect to Will Trapp, that is Michael Bradley, right? Yeah. Will Trapp is basically a not quite as good Michael Bradley. However you feel about Michael Bradley, he is the best Michael Bradley we have.
I think so. I think I would agree with that. I think that makes the most sense to me. But I mean, it could be Will Trapp. I say that only because maybe if you want that experience, if you want like one or two more players who played in the January friendlies, but I think you have the camp to get the people experience and everybody up to speed. So I would still stick with Michael Bradley. And
look for Michael Bradley to be sort of controlling the game possession-wise, which is really a key to what Berhalter wants to do. But I would say benefiting from having Tyler Adams chainsawing all around him. So the stuff that we don't like Michael Bradley for, his like maybe inability to quickly go and close someone down aggressively. He just doesn't do that anymore. Tyler Adams maybe supplements that and does that for him, right? Like Tyler Adams is Michael Bradley's vitamin supplements.
And then what about the other midfielders there?
Well, that's the exciting part, isn't it? So Berhalter has said, we see Christian Pulisic as a 10 slanting to the left, and he's talked, I think, about Weston McKennie as also a 10. Yeah. So it has to be to the left of centre Christian Pulisic, to the right of centre Weston McKennie.
It does.
That's thrilling.
Yeah, it is. And then as we saw in those friendlies, the expectation then when they do drop into a defensive 4-4-2 is that Pulisic stays a little bit higher. Yeah. So even if it's more of a 4-4-1-1, it's still going to be Pulisic and question mark ahead of him. And
it'll be like McKennie and Bradley in central midfield in the 4-4-2, right? Okay, so let's stop and think about this for a second. Pulisic and McKennie in the centre, like getting the ball in spots that like Roldan and Leggett and Mihailovic were getting the ball in those Panama and Costa Rica games. This could be really exciting. This is a lot of opportunities for Christian Pulisic to go at people through the middle against a defence that's hopefully been stretched out by what the wingers are doing in terms of like occupying the flanks and pulling fullbacks wide. There might be spaces opened up for Pulisic to really drive into or to slip passes into or to go at people.
Yeah. But it's also the first time we've seen them play together in a midfield for the United States against a strong opponent who will have something on the line, and it's not just Bolivia's C team, maybe. So I'm also going to be watching to see how those two
I'm not sure any of those guys were real footballers.
That you could convince me one way or the other with a lot of ease.
Yeah.
But that is a thing that I'm really excited to see, is how those two combine against a stronger opponent and how they're able to figure things out when challenges are presented, which they will be because that's what a game is about.
What do you think about McKennie in that centre-right role?
I mean, I think it makes the most sense. Yeah. I think it utilizes him to the best of his abilities, or the position that I've seen him look the strongest, both for club and country. Yeah. And I think I'm excited to see him do it.
Because he gets to do a bit of defending, a bit of combativeness. He'll be winning balls all over the place, but he also gets to get the ball at the top of the box, and he does that nice swerve, or like, he has a quick move that it will shimmy past a couple of people, and then he'll get himself involved in attack. So I think we'll really see something from Weston McKennie in these games. I might be being too optimistic, but that's the really...
It's kind of your style.
I guess it is, right? But the exciting part for me is seeing Pulisic and McKennie with opportunities. Yeah. Okay, the front three is the area of the field that people weren't excited about, right? Because there was a lack of sort of star power or a lack of wattage, right? Yeah. Who's your starting left and right winger and centre forward?
I will allow you to answer that question first, because I am a noble politician who believes in giving others chances.
Okay, the one thing I really, really want to see, Jordan Morris on the right wing. Okay. Here's my case. That's what he's been doing for Seattle at the start of the season. I don't know if you saw, I only saw the highlights of Seattle versus Chicago, but he did a really good job of sort of being the right winger, right? And then obviously pace down the right. I think Berhalter mentioned as well he's really excited about Morris's pace. This is your cop talk thing as well, right? But what he also does is
he's good in offensive transition, I believe it was.
Means he's quick on the counter, right?
Yes.
So, but staying on the right. But then, so he pulls people wide, but then also sneaking in to be involved in the attack. His goal against Chicago was Morris drifting in from the right to essentially be an extra centre forward. So I think Morris will play right wing, but will come inside and help Jesse Zardes in the box and be a guy who's going to take shots at goal, maybe even on target. Okay. So that would be an upgrade on what Zardes did against Panama and Costa Rica. But then also I think Morris has become really good at just that hang on the right and sneak in behind. So I can see him playing outside of the left back. So it's going to be Christian Ramirez as the left back, right? So he hangs outside the left back, pulls him as wide as possible. Then say Weston McKennie's got the ball in that centre right channel. And then it's Morris's job to dart in behind, like make that blindside run behind Christian Ramirez and look for that through ball to get himself in the box on a diagonal angle. Did that make sense when I said it?
It does.
Yeah.
My question for you, though, is that you've kind of gone at this from a very attacking standpoint.
Yeah.
What happens when the U.S. is playing defense? Because Jordan
then
Morris...
he comes back in that 4-4-2, right?
Yeah, I mean, and it's good because, as you mentioned, there's a lot of that pace there. Ramirez, as we talked about, very, very fast. Everybody you can play on the wing for Ecuador seems very, very quick to me. So it does make sense that you could match them pace for pace. Do you think he has the, positional discipline when it comes to defending to be the right side of a 4-4-2?
I haven't thought about it, and I have absolutely no idea.
Yeah.
I would be at least interested to see it.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think I don't say that to say and therefore it won't work because, again, going back to my earlier points, I can't say we're trying stuff and seeing if it sticks and then be critical of if Gregg Berhalter tries something to see if it sticks. But it also is pretty much the position that makes the most sense is for Jordan Morris to be one of those wide attackers, and if he's going to play in that system, then he has to be able to do the defensive job. So I think it makes sense to give it a go and see what happens. I have some trepidation about that.
Yeah, I'm glad you highlighted that because that'd be a thing to think about.
So you've got him on the right. Who have you got on the left then?
I've got Paul Arriola on the left because I think he made a big impact, scored, right, in the second friendly. I think he's been really impressive for DC United. I've checked in on most of DC United's games this season. I missed the last one, actually. But I think Paul Arriola on the left is really valuable and also someone who knows the system because he was there in January.
Aren't you then putting him out of position, though?
No, he plays right wing, left wing, or attacking.
Okay,
yeah.
All right. Oh, so
he's right-footed, so there's that downside.
He's our new Alejandro Bedoya, basically.
Yeah, essentially. Okay. Yeah,
he can just fill in wherever we need him to.
But the only left-footed left winger is Jonathan Lewis.
Yeah,
and I don't know, just based on history, I can only see Lewis coming off the bench for 20 minutes because that's what Berhalter seems to love to do with him. So it's going to be right-footed Paul Arriola,
and he did well with it in those games.
Yeah.
So okay, all right.
Other options: Corey Baird, which I know Berhalter likes him. A lot of people weren't impressed with his performances. I kind of think just talent-wise, he'll get squeezed out by Morris or Arriola here.
The other wrinkle could be DeAndre Yedlin starting on the right on the right wing. Maybe we see that, and maybe there's even more wrinkles there where sometimes he does drop into the Tyler Adams right back spot, and Tyler Adams becomes a right midfielder.
Yeah, we could see all sorts of variations.
So that could happen too. I still think it's more likely we see DeAndre Yedlin as a right winger, maybe defender, depending on the result in the second half of this game.
I think that's fair.
All right,
and then my centre forward, it's essentially maybe it's Jordan Morris. Maybe I'm wrong, and Jordan Morris just is selected as a centre forward. But I think it's going to be Giassi Zardes.
That was the that I was agreeing with.
Yeah, it's going to be Giassi Zardes over Christian Ramirez just because I think Zardes does the role the way that Berhalter wants it done, right? Again, the finishing wasn't good against Panama and Costa Rica. I understand people are upset about that. He's also scored 2 goals in MLS so far. But he does do all that movement. He comes and checks 2. He moves around and drags centre-backs left and right, part of disorganising the opposition, which is the whole point of the Berhalter system. I think Zardes, just knowing the system, will get the start. I actually hope he scores because I feel like he deserves some encouragement from US fans.
I agree, but I have a question.
Yeah.
What if he doesn't score? What if it is more of the same of, he made some good runs, he held a play here, he flicked that one on, he found space there, but he still had that shot that went wide or that shot that he scuffed.
Then, when Josie Altidore is ready to go in June, Josie Altidore will 100% be the starting striker.
Yeah. I would agree with that.
He actually came back for Toronto and scored off the bench and scored this weekend.
He sure did.
Yeah.
Maybe it goes back to my point about Nick Lima, is that then Giassi Zardes has set a bar. It's just not a high bar the way Nick Lima has set it. It's a bar that Josie Altidore should be able to overcome. My question always goes back to then, it feels like Bobby Wood would also be able to perform that same role.
Yeah.
And I would say perform it better. But maybe Berhalter has seen some things that make him disagree.
Yeah.
Either way,
I've seen him not play for Hanover.
Yes. Yeah, that is true. So I guess that will be a thing that I am looking at with a skeptical lens in this
Yeah,
game is,
that's fair.
does Gyasi Zardes do enough to justify continued selection? Or are we sort of after this one looking at, okay, we know what Zardes can do, let's see who else can possibly play that role going forward?
I mean, especially for the Gold Cup, right? There's only going to be so many starting striker spots, or spots on the roster even. And then Christian Ramirez, LAFC fans will want to know, I don't see him starting. I wouldn't be surprised if he comes off the bench and scores again.
I think Christian Ramirez starts.
For Ecuador at left back. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Trickery. Yes, I think Christian Ramirez is another late game sub.
Any other notes on this? I feel like we've talked about every player as if we've gone through the roster, basically.
I'm sure there's somebody we forgot because that's generally our style. I mean, we didn't mention Christian Roldan, we didn't mention Sebastian Lletget.
I mean, they'll be subbing in for Pulisic and McKennie, right?
Yeah.
Or maybe starting ahead of one of them. I'll be very surprised if it happens.
No, we don't need to do that. We can just say now that I believe we've now literally mentioned everybody in the squad.
What about the idea of maybe at some point Christian Pulisic gets shifted out from central number 10 area to maybe he becomes one of those wingers, like maybe Pulisic on the left or the right. Yeah.
I mean, there's lots of different variation that we could see in the second half if the United States is chasing, if they're trying to see the game out, if they just want to get new personnel. But I wouldn't worry so much about that. I think we have gotten as close as I feel comfortable saying we could get to what will be the starting 11. I look forward to being completely wrong.
All right, so do you consider this game previewed?
I do.
All right, I just want to give the big headline again. US will hope to have the ball. US in possession will try and pull out an Ecuador team and create space to exploit. Ecuador will be dangerous on the counter with Enner Valencia, the Ibarras, and the pace of Ayrton on the left.
Yes.
And look out for Christian Ramirez at left back.
And I would say, because I think we didn't really go down that road too much of what Ecuador will actually do, because, again, they've played a bunch of different formations and a lot of different people. If I had to boil it down to the basics, the one that I would be most comfortable taking a jump on, I would say it's a 4-1-4-1, very deep. So that means you're going to have...
So at defensive midfield?
Yeah, which means that again, this U.S. system makes sense because if you get Tyler Adams in there, now you've got 4v3 overload in the middle. But I'll still be curious to see how we're able to incorporate whomever starts up top and how much service they get. I'll be curious to see how we deal with the pace and the counterattacking ability of Ecuador out wide, and also how we're able to kind of combat the feistiness of Enner Valencia and if they're able to limit his opportunities.
And this game is Thursday night.
Yep.
It's on ESPN2. It's also on Univision Deportes. It's in Orlando. It is listed as an 8 o'clock Eastern kickoff. My money is on 8:09 p.m. kickoff.
I think I said 8:11.
8:11.
But then we could both be horrifically wrong in that coverage starts at 8. Kickoff is at 8:37. But I'm saying 8:11.
I will say US Soccer, for one of the January friendlies, did give us the exact kickoff time, right? Or they at least said television coverage starts at, actual game starts at. So it could be a whole new era where they give us the actual kickoff
Could
times.
be. Or it could be a new era of them raising your hopes to dash them quite expertly.
Quite expertly. All right, and of course, we'll be back on Thursday with a full review of the USA versus Ecuador.
That's the plan.
Okay, other quick news is that Jason Kreis has been announced as the U23 coach. There's a whole U23 roster. We are going to get into all of that on tomorrow's show. But if you're looking for the U23 roster, go find it. Weah's on it, Sargent's on it, Jason Kreis is the coach. Final thing on today's show, Taylor. Have we got time for scouting reports?
I believe we do.
Okay.
And we've got many to get to.
I'm excited.
Yeah. And again, we have many still to get to, so I apologize if yours is not included. I think as we kind of get further and further away from when some of them were sent, some of them we may just have to kind of bid adieu to.
Yeah,
and some of them we may be doing a very abbreviated version.
Because if it's not serving listeners with current news, then it's not worth us doing it. Again, this is all because of health stuff that happened in January.
Going on
February.
vacation is, I believe, how he chooses to phrase it.
Yes.
All right. Up first, we've got Tom Gaffney. Hey, those are your words. Tom Gaffney scouting James Sands, the 18-year-old American defensive midfielder for NYCFC. Yawn in all caps, says Tom, with an exclamation point. Can you yawn with an exclamation point? Does yawn naturally require
I guess you've got to be
period?
really sleepy, but you've also had a lot of coffee.
Yeah, I guess when you yawn, you can be loud, so it makes sense. Another match, another full 90 for young James, who played his typical stingy defensive effort in a 2-2 draw against LAFC. Sands was not at fault for either goal and generally played a smart, safe game. The only times he got involved on the offensive end were a few clever tackles to pick the ball cleanly and start the break for NYCFC.
Sounds good. Lewis Tidrick is scouting Shaft Brewer, the 19-year-old American right wing-back, on loan at Phoenix Rising from LAFC. Lewis says Shaft made his 2019 USL debut for Phoenix Rising against New Mexico United in their 3-3 draw on Saturday. Coming in at half-time, Shaft immediately made an impact by sending in a cross that led to a penalty to give Phoenix their second goal. Go on, Shaft. He looks solid on the ball in his first ever professional match at right back.
There we go. So that's positive from Phoenix. Yeah. Slightly more negative. Andrew Baird scouting Josh Perez, the 21-year-old American winger, on loan at Phoenix Rising from LAFC. Perez was one of 4 players, or LAFC players more specifically, loaned to Phoenix. He's been nursing a hamstring injury and hasn't gotten any minutes thus far.
Jonathan Holmgren is scouting Foster Langsdorff, the 23-year-old American forward for the Portland Timbers. Jonathan says Langsdorff had an assist to Todd Wharton, formerly of UVA around here, in the 18th minute for T2's first goal in a 3-1 win over San Antonio FC. T2 are 1-1-0 after the first 2 weeks of the USL season. Does that mean they've won 1, lost 1 and drawn none, or
no
1-1, drawn?
I always forget how they do this.
Oh, no.
The differences between US and Europe when it comes to how they list results is always confusing to me.
All right, they either have 3 points or 4 points.
Yeah. Speaking of Europeans, John Roeder scouting Jakob Brun-Larsen, 20-year-old Danish winger for Dortmund. Due to Dortmund's annual injury crisis, Brun-Larsen found himself starting at striker this weekend against Hertha Berlin. In his 75 minutes on the pitch, his runs were well-timed, and his work rate, as always, was great. He was also included in the Danish squad as a replacement for the injured Robert Skov. That's for, I believe they have a friendly and then a Euro qualifier over this international break.
Got it. Do you know about this game?
So, yeah, we talked about it on the weekend review.
I started listening, but I'm only halfway through.
That's all right.
Yeah. What did you guys make of Pulisic's performance in that game?
We didn't really talk about it at all. We didn't talk about many Americans. We had a person ask about like why we didn't talk about Tyler Adams versus Weston McKennie. I assumed you would want to do that, but we've talked about them plenty.
All right.
I mean, we didn't really talk about him at all. So what did you make of Christian Pulisic?
He was sort of somewhat ineffective a lot of the time he had the ball. He would like be on the left wing and go at people, and the dribble was unsuccessful. Sorry, on the right wing to begin with. He was on the right,
I was
centre
confused
on the left.
for a moment there.
They switched at half time, and Pulisic immediately cut in from the left on his right, went past someone, hit a shot that was just saved, and Dortmund scored from the corner. Mm-hmm. So he had these flashes, these moments where he was really influential, but then he had long stretches where he would dribble at people and lose the ball.
Put him on that left side.
I don't know what to make of it. It's like eventually he got something done, and Dortmund pulled out this 3-2 desperate win, which is they needed 3 points, right? Because I think Bayern Munich won 6-0.
They did.
So it wasn't like a classic Pulisic performance, but he still got the job done in the end.
He did.
Yeah.
Against 9-man Hertha.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sam Creef is scouting Ezequiel Barco, the 19-year-old Argentine attacker for Atlanta United. Sam says Barco subbed in the 67th minute of Atlanta's 1-1 draw against the Union and scored the equaliser using his head. I wouldn't have guessed that. Barco has looked more motivated this year and has been one of the few promising points of a disappointing start to the Frank de Boer era in Atlanta. If this de Boer thing keeps going on, we're going to have to do kind of a special TSS on this and figure out what's happening.
I actually made the choice not to talk about it on this weekend review because I feel like we keep talking about Atlanta because either you talk about Atlanta because they're amazing and like scoring all the goals and playing amazing soccer as they were last year, or they're not, as is the case this year, and it becomes a big talking point. But I didn't want to talk about them because there are many other teams to be discussed when it comes to Major League Soccer. But yeah, if it keeps going, it's going to have to be a thing that we maybe dedicate a whole episode to.
Maybe we could help Frank fix it.
I hope Felipe Cardenas' ears just perked up a little bit.
Who's next?
Anurag Anjaria scouting Andrija Novakovic, the 22-year-old American striker on loan at Fortuna Sittard from Reading. Novakovic had the perfect response to being passed on for the latest USMNT call-ups, a goal and an assist to keep Fortuna out of the relegation zone. He showed his aerial prowess with both, knocking down a long ball under pressure to set up a Fortuna goal, and he later scored himself with a beautifully placed header. I
can confirm he's not on the U23 roster either. I don't know if he's too old for it.
Interesting. I mean, he's 22 years old, so I would guess not.
Oh, yeah, it says there. Mm-hmm. John Adams scouting Cheyenne Harrison, the 21-year-old English forward on loan at Melbourne City FC from Tottenham. I did not know that.
Me neither.
John Adams, not that one, by the way. Harrison scored his first A-League goal in Melbourne City's 2-0 win over first place Sydney FC. He collected a pass on the right side of the box, found his angle, I guess he got a protractor out, and slotted across the keeper to the bottom left corner of the goal. This is only Cheyenne's second goal away from Spurs U23s in his entire career. His other was during his loan to League One side Yeovil Town in the 2016-17 season.
There we go. Way to get on that score sheet, Cheyenne. Way to get on there very intermittently. Trevor Talbert scouting Griffin Yao, 16-year-old American forward on loan at Loudoun United from DC United.
See, that's how he wants you to pronounce it.
I think it's with an exclamation point at all times. Yeah. What's the word? Is an onomatopoeia when it's like the word that like sounds like it's pronounced or
Yes.
whatever it is. That's not the way to put it, but like pow or whatever.
I know what you mean, yeah.
I feel like Yao should be in there for that one. Yeah, Yao was signed to the new USL team, Loudoun United, and scored in his second game with the team. His goal was the first ever for the club and came when he received the ball on the edge of the box and curled it into the far post.
Trevor, I've seen this goal. It is nice, but there's a massive deflection on the way.
Nah,
There's
don't worry
a
about
massive deflection on the way.
that. Daryl, don't do that. Come on. He's 16. He's 16.
Danny
Deflections don't count.
Danny Macaga is scouting Oliver Batista Maya, the 18-year-old Brazilian-German left winger for Bayern Munich.
Did you ask about him on the show or something? Because the scouting report was like, Daryl, like it was addressed to you to answer, like as though you had asked a question about where he is.
Yes, I was confused about whether he played
Okay,
or not. Yeah.
all right.
Oh, and so Danny says OBM is still injured. That's what it is. But was recently featured in an article for the Bundesliga's English language site where they noted Batista is spelled similarly to Batista and that there was once a WWE wrestler named Dave the Animal Batista. Is that the guy that's in Guardians of the Galaxy? Yeah. Seriously. The first two paragraphs of the article are about this, before moving on to note that his ankle rehab is going well and he hopes to earn senior team minutes this season. Well done to Danny for doing a lot with obviously not a lot of news.
It was actually
Batista.
It was actually longer, and I cut it down. And I appreciate that both you and Danny pointed out that how do you not reference Guardians of the Galaxy when it comes to Dave Batista? So you all are great minds thinking alike there. Or
maybe Guardians did zero box office in Germany.
I'm not sure knowing that Dave Batista was in the Guardians of the Galaxy is great minds, but like minds thinking same thing.
Culturally relevant minds.
Sure.
Yeah.
Guy Edweb scouting Serge Gnabry, the 23-year-old German wide forward for Bayern Munich. Gnabry performed well as Bayern were kicked out of the Champions League, forcing an own goal and creating two more great chances by turning Andy Robertson down the wing. In happier news, Gnabry was included on Jogi Löw's Germany roster for the March Euro qualifiers, joining Leroy Sané and Timo Werner as the only forwards on the roster.
That's a lot of pace. Will Hurson is scouting Ryan Sessegnon, the 18-year-old English left-sider for Fulham. Will says, Fulham have lost 7 in a row and have all but booked a return to the Championship, while Sess has largely lost his place to 6-month signee Ryan Babel. A minor injury contributed to a major cause of, quote, poor form, and Sess is averaging fewer than 40 minutes per game since the start of February, hasn't scored since Boxing Day. Despite all that, rumours persist of a £50 million transfer to Spurs, which is the only thing that's carried over from last season. Do you remember all the Fulham season previews and we all thought Sessegnon was going to destroy the Premier League?
Yeah, so did Fulham. That's why they spent so much money. Yeah. Instead, here we are. That's going to be... Not since like maybe QPR have I wondered what is a relegated team going to do because they have so many people on the books that they're going to have to deal with.
They're going to unplug the fax machine?
Yeah.
Or make a lot of money?
I mean... Or make not that much money, because I would bet the relegation clauses are not nearly as highly priced. Steve Renard scouting Yuri Tielemans, the 21-year-old Belgian midfielder for Leicester. Tielemans opened the scoring in Leicester's 3-1 win over Fulham, the aforementioned, scoring a tap-in after Jamie Vardy squared it to him after pulling out the goalkeeper. Jamie Vardy played through, goal. Pulls out the goalkeeper, slots it over. Easy goal, but a goal nonetheless.
Daniel Pitcock is scouting Falarin Balogun, the 17-year-old English-American forward for Arsenal. Daniel says, Balogun was named in England's U18 squad for the upcoming UAE Sports Chain Cup, where they will play Japan, Czech Republic, and Mexico.
As you do. James Jones scouting Andrew Carlton, 18-year-old American attacker for Atlanta United. Carlton has played 2 MLS games this season for a total of 27 minutes.
Same old, same old.
In better news, he was called up for the U20 friendlies against France and Japan. He's listed as a midfielder, so James is interested to see if Ramos chooses to use him as one of the dual number 8s.
Interesting. If you want more on that U20 roster, there was a really good Top Draw Soccer show last week with Taylor Rockwell and Travis Clark.
Correct.
Russell Varner and Modest scouting Alex Mendez.
Not correct.
Russell Varner is scouting Alex Mendez, the 18-year-old American midfielder for SC Freiburg. Russell says Mendez was also named to that US U20 roster and will provide a veteran presence in the squad. Can you have that on a U20 roster? Only Ayo Akinola has more goals and no one in the squad has more caps.
Russell said all that, but he also included that number of caps is 3.
Akinola played for Toronto and scored this weekend as well.
Because I was I was wondering if he was ever going to get that chance, and then I remembered that we're talking about like a 19-year-old, and it changed my perspective a little bit. Final U20 to talk about, Chris Fujimoto scouting Jonathan Amon, 19-year-old American left winger for FC Nordsjælland, something like that. Amon's minutes have dipped in the second half of the season, but he was still included on Tab Ramos' U20 roster. That call-up might explain his senior team omission. I would say it definitely does.
There we go. Thank you to everybody for the scouting reports. We're back on it, right? We're going to be getting through lots and lots of scouting reports.
Yeah, we'll see.
If you would like to join the Total Soccer Show Scouting Network, the URL is totalsoccershow.com/join. It is how we keep this show going. Yes, there are advertisers, but you wouldn't believe how big the Scouting Network is in terms of supporting the show. It is absolutely key. Integral. Integral is the word I'm going to use.
And I would just like to add, very big. It's very big.
It is very big.
Yeah,
There's
big
a lot.
role. Big job.
Big job.
Yep.
Also, again,
I have words.
I've been slow on assigning players recently. I am getting better at that. I am assigning players to people who have signed up. If you are feeling impatient, I know a couple of people emailed me a couple of weeks ago and I haven't got to them. Email me this week. I promise I will get your player to you. Daryl, D-I-R-A-L, at totalsoccershow.com. Coming up tomorrow, Taylor, we're going to talk U23s a little bit. We talk Jason Christ, and we're going to do some listener questions. If you want to get your questions in, it's totalsoccershow.com/questions. All that remains to say is, Taylor Rockwell, thank you for taking the time to talk to me today.
Right back at you, buddy.
Listeners, thank you for listening. It's the key. It's key to the whole thing. We'll talk to you again tomorrow.